What is going on, you all? Welcome back to another NBA playoffs podcast. We had game 2 action for a few teams last night. We had the Bucks versus the Pistons, the Rockets versus the Jazz, and the Boston Celtics versus the Indiana Pacers. Guys, this was an interesting night of basketball, especially since all the teams I just named off, especially the ones I mentioned either second or first, like the Rockets, the Celtics, and the Bucks, they all went up 2-0 in the game series, which is kind of expected, especially since the first two games were on those teams' home court, going into the away team's locker room, the away team's court, and we'll see how they perform then. But the Celtics and the Pacers, we're going to start off with what I took away from the game and how they ended up winning this game to go up 2-0. The Boston Celtics did. The Celtics were playing good team basketball. Everyone was getting touches. Hayward, Morris, Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Aaron Baines. Everyone was just getting touches for the Boston Celtics in this game. So they definitely played a good role in team basketball. Indiana Pacers were scoring their buckets to maintain the first quarter lead. So most of the game, the Pacers were leading, but the Celtics had that fighting spirit coming, and they came back into the game. Kyrie Irving is a pure scorer, man. He can score in so many different ways, whether it's driving to the basket, laying it up high off the glass, or taking a mid-range shot, as well as shooting the three ball consistently with a hand in his face almost every single time. That's how motivated he is to get past the Indiana Pacers and go into the next round of the playoffs. And right before halftime, Kyrie Irving does hit a floater, and that ended up swinging a little bit of momentum going into the third quarter for the Boston Celtics. Darren Collison for the Pacers was making he was hustling in the third quarter. He was hustling up and down the court, whether it was grabbing rebounds, getting steals, getting buckets. He was just doing it all in the third quarter. Kyrie Irving has hot hand. In the middle of the fourth quarter, he was making it happen, making it rain. It looked like a Jamal Murray late shooting performance, which he did the previous night or the night before. That's how he was scoring, but it was just a good game overall from Kyrie Irving. Had the leading scoring as well. As we take a look as well, Bogdanovich for the Pacers was hitting clutch threes, but it was too little too late, and the Pacers ended up struggling to score in the final minute of the game. Mental mistakes, getting turnovers and things of that sort when no one was in the vicinity except the person who threw the ball in, like Wesley Matthews, I think it was. He threw the ball in and threw it into the stands. And it's like, you need to be aware in that situation. I know your player is being guarded, but not everybody thinks the same as you. The leading scorers were Bogdanovich for the Pacers, 23 points, and Kyrie Irving, 37 points for the Celtics. The Celtics going to win 99-91 for a 2-0 series lead against the Indiana Pacers. They win the two games at home. Now they have to win on the road if they want the complete sweep of Indiana in the first round. Moving on, we did have another game. Like I said before, the Bucks versus the Pistons. I'm going to be honest, this series, the only thing interesting about the Bucks and Pistons series is who is guarding Giannis next. Now, what I mean by that is Andre Drummond and Thon Maker. Thon Maker used to play on the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, he has the secret formula in to play against Giannis, and it's whether he's blocking shots or he is getting dunked on. It's what happens to Thon Maker, man. He is trying so hard to show and prove himself, but the problem is that the Bucks fans had you for a few years and you didn't do much of anything, and it's kind of sad that you need to show up in the playoffs and match up against a player who you've played with for the past few years. But we're going to go into the game and dive into it. The Pistons trying to stay with the Bucks early. They were staying with the Milwaukee Bucks early, but of course, as usual, Giannis had an impact. Giannis passing up threes for mid-range buckets. He passed up a three-pointer, had a wide-open three. Andre Drummond said, shoot it. Man, Giannis stepped in, shot the mid-range, and got it to go. Easy money for him. Giannis and Thon Maker going at it, man. Whether it was Thon Maker playing good defense against Giannis, who was blocking his shots, or whether it was on the other end and Giannis slamming on him. It was just back and forth between these two. It was a good matchup to see in this game. And the Pistons were getting buckets late in the second quarter, which ended up getting them closer to the Bucks lead. We got Kennard for the Pistons. He starts as point guard and is a consistent shooter. Luke Kennard. Have never heard of him in my life until game one, and he was just shooting consistently, trying to help the Pacers. But the problem is, when you only have one player who is scoring consistently, that's not going to be able to overcome the Milwaukee Bucks and how they play defense and how they have Chris Middleton, Eric Bledsoe, Giannis, Brook Lopez. They have a nice lineup, especially players who can shoot off the bench. That definitely helps for your depth. Moving on, Giannis runs over Drummond. Now, obviously, Drummond tried to take a charge in Milwaukee, which, I mean, let's be honest, they aren't going to call that. And then Giannis says, hey, man, what are you doing, bro? Flopping. He wanted a foul. Giannis wanted a blocking foul, especially because I believe he was in the restricted area. I believe he wanted a foul, but of course the refs let a lot of things slide in the playoffs, and I noticed that, especially with the intensity of play. It's just up and down the court, attacking the rim, all contact. Very rarely will they call a foul. Eric Bledsoe was hustling, man. He was going off, up and down the court, grabbing rebounds, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. He was scoring at will. And it surprised me that he was actually the leading scorer for the Milwaukee Bucks. So it does make sense how hard he was playing, especially against a player like Luke Kennard, who is great on offense, not so great on defense. Leading scorers, Luke Kennard for the Pistons, 19 points. Eric Bledsoe, 27 points for the Milwaukee Bucks. The final score of this game was 120-99. The Bucks win. They go up 2-0 in the series, going to Detroit for games 3 and 4. Last game of the night was, of course, the late game. Rockets and Utah Jazz, game number 2 as well. James Harden saucing up Ricky Rubio early. Now, how you guard him, I do not know. If he's playing in the playoffs like he played in the regular season, I don't know what you can do. I think if they play the Golden State Warriors, I think they may put Kevin Durant on him only because he's long. He's a long, lengthy player, and that would help the Warriors' chances. You don't want Stephen Curry guarding James Harden. Maybe not even Klay Thompson guarding Klay. Maybe not even Klay Thompson guarding Harden. He just finds a way to score. Either it's dribble penetration or it's his three-point shooting. He's just a killer. I don't think you can guard Harden without leaving someone open. So what I mean by that is I don't think you can double team Harden and leave another player open because he does play that point guard role. He does pass the ball as well. Had a triple-double in this game. One-on-one. It doesn't matter who is guarding Harden from the Jazz, especially on the Jazz. It doesn't matter if you put Derek Favors, Rudy Gobert, Ricky Rubio, Grayson Allen even. No, you can't really guard a Harden one-on-one, especially if you are a team like the Utah Jazz. Now, it was interesting because since Harden was the shooting guard, I was expecting Donovan Mitchell to guard him. No, he shied away from that responsibility and had Ricky Rubio get sauced up instead of his image being a little bit fractured on the defensive side, which makes sense. I don't blame him. I would do the same thing. It's almost impossible to guard Harden. Clint Capella having a block party out there, had 2 back-to-back blocks when the Jazz got offensive rebounds, and he was just lighting it up on the defensive end. He is a good rim protector, man. He's a good center in this league, especially when obviously it's interesting that the big man in the sense of a post player like Rudy Gobert is kind of fading out, and Rudy Gobert, he didn't do much of anything. He really couldn't. Rockets score 70 points in the first half of the game. It was just an insane shooting performance, especially from three. Now, obviously, I believe the Rockets will live and die with the three. So if something happens again and it's the Golden State series or whatever, that is going to be a problem, especially if they miss all those threes like they did last year. That will not be good. Yes, it's a higher percentage shot. No, it's not a higher percentage shot, but it is a higher percentage chance of you winning if you can shoot the three ball much greater than your opponent. But it may be where they live and die by the three ball and they fall on their own sword in, say, the Western Conference Finals. The Jazz started the third quarter strong. Obviously, they still had a significant deficit, but they did start the third quarter pretty strong, and it was interesting to see, hey, the Jazz may be coming back. No, because the Jazz did not have a chance. They didn't have a chance in this game or the last game, especially when Harden is just saucing you up. He is depleting you because he's making all of his shots. It's just one of those things that you can't really explain like you want to explain, So Harden did have a triple-double, though, man. This guy, he is... he actually may go down in history as the greatest player without a ring because he is doing things, whether it's in the playoffs or whether it's in the regular season, that not a lot of players do. Especially him being up there with Wilt Chamberlain in specific areas. That's insane. It's definitely insane. Leading scorers, multiple players for the Utah Jazz had 17 points. Harden, 32, 13 rebounds, 10 assists. The Rockets win this game 118-98, 20-point victory. The Rockets take game 2 on their home floor. Now they have to go to Utah, which is going to be interesting because we all know how that Utah crowd is, and it's going to be interesting to see how Harden handles it and how Chris Paul and the rest of them handle it. It should be interesting. But other than that, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Hope you all went on to enjoying it. Like and subscribe. This was the Game 2 recap of the 3 games, the Bucks and Pistons, the Rockets and Jazz, and the Boston Celtics and Indiana Pacers. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Now talk to you all later. Peace. Wow.